You're disgusting.
Hey, you shut up. There's only one person I'm doing this for.
Algún día, papi. Algún día te haré sentir orgulloso.
Is that what I think it is?
Yes, Margaret. It's a picture of Andrew Ray and Jack Stopper doing the fusion dance from Dragon Ball Z.
It took me like 2 to 3 hours to finish this thing, and this is what I believe in now. This is my religion. So I need you to stop being so mean-spirited and closed-minded about what I do. Okay? This is important to me. You know what? Stuff this. I'm tired of it. We're done. It's cut. I'm done. I'm going upstairs. I'm going to bed. Actually, no, I'm not. No, wait, sorry. We got that thing to do. Hello all, and welcome to the first, and let's be honest, probably only episode of Stressed Eating, the show where I make food and then I show you the food. And then it's like a plot twist, me and then most of my crew are drunk.
Logan?
Oh! God damn it! Are we rolling on me again? Oh.
So, today we are looking at an absolutely me-thrill-hard gauntlet of a challenge thrown down by one of my favorite YouTube channels, Binging with Babish. Now, this guy probably needs no introduction. Handsome guy, like yay tall, Neil Fallon beard, has actual charisma and cooking ability.
Guy that I kind of wish was my husband.
Hey, don't make this weird. I need him to like me. So, recently old Baba Babish extended a challenge to the viewing populace in which, contrary to regular form, he couldn't actually make a palatable version of something from pop culture. In this case, this repugnant shit.
Oh yeah, peanut butter cup Dorito sausage Car Panini. And let's crack a Cadbury egg over the whole thing.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to Binging with Babish, where this week we're taking a look at Peter's Car Panini by popular demand. This is a really gross sandwich. 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 This is a really gross sandwich.
Would you get the fuck out of my way, please?
And I have to admit, I am stumped. Can't figure it out. That's where you come in. Try to make a halfway palatable version of this sandwich.
Now that's a hell of a challenge if you ask me, particularly for a guy with such sweet forearm tattoos. I mean, if he can't figure it out, what the fuck am I supposed to do? I said, what the fuck am I supposed to do?
I'm just Chris Breezy personally, but you kind of want to do the French brisket. You kind of transition to a 3-point stance. It's kind of like this, like a motion thruster, but you kind of want to put a little more zoom into it, zoom, switching into a ankle dust. And then you want to just pull on plank.
All right, I guess we'll just I don't know, take five. Take five. Isn't that what people say?
I don't know, Logan. I've got work in the morning.
So, far be it from me to question the culinary prowess of Daddy McBabbins, but methinks I have an idea on where the hang-up is for this recreation. And no, it isn't the use of Vienna sausages, although those are perhaps the most disgusting thing on the planet, and I am more loath to use them than I would be if I baked my cat into a casserole. Instead, I'm thinking the frustration is actually coming from a pretty unlikely place, and that's in Captain O'Babbage's choice of Dorito flavor. Babs interprets the Doritos in the Family Guy clip as being nacho cheesier flavored, which is a fair assumption. So far as I can tell, these are the most instantly recognizable flavor of Doritos, even if you can't find any other flavor at the nearest gas station, which is where Don Bobka says he bought his ingredients. You're almost guaranteed to find a satchel of these lying around. My first thought was to try and go with a Mexican food approach, or at least Tex-Mex, being as these are, after all, nacho cheesier Doritos. But while Babinski Reflex is no stranger to taking some creative liberties with the ingredients of a shitty dish when trying to remake it, he at least stays stays relatively true to the idea. And truth be told, despite my best efforts, I couldn't figure out a way to incorporate sausage, chocolate, peanut butter, and nachos. At first I thought I'd try chorizo and some sort of mole sauce, which surprisingly uses chocolate, or at least some kind of chocolatey analog like Cascabel chili. But those are some pungent flavors that are going to overwhelm or clash with other readily noticeable flavors like peanut butter or nacho cheese. And besides, let's be honest with ourselves, relying on Doritos to accurately recreate the flavor of anything is a bit like asking me to accept responsibility for the numerous horrible things I've done in my life. Great in theory, abysmal in practice. So I'm gonna go ahead and veto Ollie B's choice of Doritos, but what does that leave us with? Well, the obvious choice here is Cooler Ranch, which to be totally honest I much prefer, and they're a little more faithful to their source material. But with that being said, ranch dressing should stay far the fuck away from anything chocolate or peanut butter related. Or really anything besides, I don't know, lettuce. So that's it, right? The terrible two have been unseated as usable candidates for the central flavors of our sandwich. Time to pay your PAs, pack up your gear, and then give up on your dreams forever. Except, nope. I said, nope. God damn it, that's the second time I've used this joke.
Hey! Hey! What are you doing? You read the script, you know it's not the end of the episode. Josh! Stop eating all my goddamn peanut butter!
So, like I was saying, the big two may be out, but that doesn't mean that's the end of the list. And since the Family Guy episode doesn't specify what Peter's using, I'm going to make an executive decision to use, bam, spicy sweet chili flavored. Now, I'm probably not going to actually use these in the recipe itself. Doritos flavors aren't really true to anything and they're hella potent. But beyond that, I personally have yet to find a good way to use chips as an ingredient in any way besides a stand-in for breadcrumbs. So instead, I'm going to use these as more of an inspiration. When I think about masterful combinations of sweet and spicy chili flavors, my heart, mind, and spirit all go to the glory of Thai food. In particular, one god-tier condiment comes to mind, the peanut sauce, for which we'll need the 1 jar of peanut butter that your uncle hasn't eaten. Add to that some crushed red pepper flakes, and we're on our way to getting our Doritos and the peanut butter from our Reese's Cups incorporated. But, of course, the other major ingredient in Reese's Peanut Butter Cups isn't chili pepper, unless Hershey's figured out some truly dastardly black magic. Obviously, I'm talking about chocolate, but how the hell does chocolate go with peanut butter and chili pepper? As it turns out, actually pretty well. Ah! Jesus Christ. Pretty well. Boom, a red chili chocolate bar. Now you may have walked past these bad boys a lot in the grocery store because, like me, you probably thought they would be disgusting. But I gotta say, these are a real sleeper hit. I'm more than willing to put my mouth where my money is here and eat a piece of this on camera.
Alright. Alright, 3, 2, 1. That's actually not bad. The chili flavor isn't super overwhelming, which is really good because So, if you ask me, the hardest part's over, but we're not done just yet. We've still got to address the sausage and Cadbury cream egg flavored elephant in the room, the sausage and Cadbury cream egg. Now, the sausage problem, I think, is pretty easily solved. I'm just going to use some Vermont maple sausage links. I know that smoky sweetness probably seems like it'll clash with all the flavors of our peanut sauce, but hey, shut up. Just shut up. Okay, I worked really hard on this recipe. If you don't believe that this can work, go watch the Bob Evans Farms video on Asian maple sausages. I actually found out about that recipe while I was doing extensive research on confirmation bias. Now, the Cadbury cream egg is a little bit tricky, but I think since we've got the chocolate already figured out, it gives us a little bit of wiggle room. So we're going to approach the rest in 2 parts, egg and cream. Now, the cream in a Cadbury cream egg isn't actually cream at all. It doesn't even use dairy. It's nothing more than simple inverted sugar syrup. But we are going to keep it extra, as I'm pretty sure the kids say. I think the kids are still saying extra. We're going to go extra and use real cream. And since Cadbury is an English company, I thought we'd keep it with our friends across the pond and make clotted or Devonshire cream. Honestly, I think it's always okay to just take two disparate English things and associate them because I am a bad person. Now to make our clotted cream, we're going to take a cue from the only man that I respect more than Babsted Butt, Alton Brown. So to use Alton Brown's method, we just need 2 cups of heavy cream. Now make sure this is pasteurized and not ultra pasteurized, otherwise we won't be able to separate our curds from our whey. We just need our cream, 2 reusable coffee filters, and 1 paper filter inside of a bowl. So let's get this started real quick because it's pretty simple, but it's going to take us a little time.
Well, I'm sure you've probably already figured this out by now, but we're going to arrange this puppy in the way Alton Brown does when I assume he's designing a dairy-themed transformer. Now, technically, the way Alton Brown lists his method on the Food Network website, he actually uses a strainer instead of these 2 reusable coffee filters. But, unfortunately, I'm in the process of moving, so my strainer was already packed up. All we've really got to do is place one of these paper filters inside one of the plastic filters, which we're then going to put into the other plastic filter, which we're then going to put into the bowl. Simple stuff in and of itself, but with their powers combined, we are
Unapproachable alcoholics. Yay!
Try not to overfill the basket or fill it up too fast. We don't want the paper filter to collapse and make an even bigger mess than our 20s. After this, take your Clottobot to the fridge and let it contemplate its transformation for about 2 hours.
Now, clotted cream is actually a pretty mild flavor, sometimes described as slightly nutty, so this should complement our spicy sauce nicely. So the only thing left to deal with in our Cadbury cream egg is the egg, which I'm sure you can tell actually isn't a part of a Cadbury cream egg, unless Cadbury has outdone Hershey in some confectionery black magic one-upsmanship. But again, I'm trying to make Mark Murphy out of a monstrosity here, so I'm going to blow your mind even further to shit when I tell you that not only am I going to put egg in this monstrosity of a recipe, but I'm going to take it all the way back to the Far East with a little omelet called dashimaki tamago, or for brevity and the sake of my own sanity, just tamago. Now this is a very specific subset of a broad range of Japanese omelets called tamagoyaki, and tamagoyaki can usually be served with rice or some other kind of accoutrement. Now what makes dashimaki tamago different is the inclusion of a savory stock called dashi, which is made by boiling down kombu seaweed and bonito flakes. Now, before you get too worried about us adding a fishy flavor to this already crazy recipe, don't be. Dashi is actually a subtle, savory broth that forms the basis of a lot of Japanese soups and stocks, and that should go pretty well with our sweet, meaty sausage. But also, I mean that as an innuendo. So the best thing about this type of tamago, at least for our recipe, is that the extra liquid is actually going to make the egg thinner, so that when we get our requisite number of folds for the omelet, it's going to be a lot smoother and creamier. Hey, like a creamy Cadbury, because there's like the whole cream egg, Cadbury Castle egg, you know, there's the whole, I mean, you saw where I was going with that, right? So with all that, you're probably tempted to think, this is too hard. None of these flavors make sense together. Or this guy is really ugly. Now, except for that last part, I can tell you that none of the rest of that is true. This is all actually pretty simple to make, and we're going to get started with our spicy peanut sauce because it's not very time sensitive, so we can set it aside until later when we're finished making our tamago. But first things first, I promised I was going to address the Vienna sausages, and I am.
Step 1. Preheat your oven to 500 degrees. Step 2. Put them in the oven and forget about them until the end of the episode.
So for our chocolate peanut sauce, we're just going to need a few easy to find things. We've got a half a cup of creamy peanut butter, a small piece of peeled ginger, 1 garlic clove, 2 teaspoons of brown sugar, a half teaspoon of crushed red pepper flakes, 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, preferably low sodium, a squeeze or 2 of lime, and of course, our dark chocolate chili bar.
I actually forgot to mention this while I was recording, but I have 2 dark chocolate chili bars. You could make do with 1, but I went with 2 to give myself a little margin of error. Each one of these is about 3.5 ounces, and 2 two of them should give us just shy of a cup. But that's okay if you only have the one, because I'm only going to put in about a quarter cup, and we can add a little bit more if we need to. The bar I have here is made with dark chocolate, which has a higher cocoa content and therefore a stronger flavor. We don't want to lose this, but we also don't want it to take over our sauce, particularly since the chili in this isn't quite as strong as you might expect. I'll get back to melting chocolate here shortly, but first let's marvel at how easy it is to make the rest of this sauce. To make our peanut sauce, we're just going to need a blender and a tried and true ancient technique called throwing shit into a blender. That may sound a little bit complicated, but don't worry, I have a handy mnemonic device to help you remember how to do this. It goes a little something like this: 1, 2, throw shit into a blender. And, well, that's it. That's literally all you have to know how to do. The only other piece of information I would suggest is that you want to put the ginger and the garlic in there before you put the rest of the ingredients in the blender. Ginger and garlic are both very fibrous, and we need to break down those fibers as much as possible before we put in the rest of our ingredients. Otherwise, we're just going to have pulp at the bottom of our blender that won't be able to get ground up any further. You can see me here throttling the ever-loving shit out of my blender, and that's because the fibers are getting stuck to the bottom and along the sides. If this happens, it's probably not going to help to shake the blender. I just had a really long day at this point. If you're having trouble getting them unstuck, just add a little bit of your soy sauce in there. This should help scrape it away from the sides. And the soy sauce has a very thin consistency, so it shouldn't get in the way of breaking down the pulp. And after that, it's just as simple as pouring the rest of this shit into the blender. Don't be afraid to keep your finger on the button for a while, or occasionally scrape down the sides until you have a nice, smooth, even consistency for your sauce. If you feel your sauce is too thick or is getting stuck to the sides or the bottom of your blender again, just add about a quarter cup of water alongside a tablespoon of soy sauce. And hey, through the magic of cinematography, 2 hours has passed, which means it's time to take a look at our clotted cream. To show you what to do from here on out, I turned this task over to Gage and Jacob, as well as our resident voiceover artist, Nathan. Ah, Christ Jesus, I hope I didn't make a huge mistake.
So this part is easy. You just need a rubber spatula. Make sure it's rubber, or I'll come to your house and hit you with a cool stick. If you get confused by what to do, I find it's helpful to remember a poem written in 1788 by one Curtis 50 Cent Jackson, which describes this process. Way up here is all my curds, and all this way is for the birds. Way, way, go away, I'll make scones another day. Right now I'm making clotted cream, so I'll scrape this coffee filter clean. Then refill it like before, and wait 2 hours to get more. Keep these curds nice and chill. Blue and yellow purple pills. That's a reference no one gets, so go upstairs and watch people on the street from your room with a telescope. Wait, what?
Dude, what are you doing? Get out of here! I'm doing Pilates!
So, with all of your worst nightmares realized, it's time to work with our chocolate. So we need to have our chocolate melted, but how do we do that? Well, we could use the microwave, but I find it's easier to burn your chocolate that way. So instead, we're going to use a double boiler, or as I like to call it, 2 saucepans of relatively equal size stacked on top of one another.
All you really need to do to make the equivalent of a double boiler is get 2 equally sized saucepans. The bottom one we're going to fill with about 3 inches of water and bring to a low boil. Once that's accomplished, we'll drop it down to a simmer and set the other saucepan on top, making sure the bottom doesn't touch the water so we don't burn our chocolate. Then we just drop in our chopped up chocolate and keep it moving until it looks about like this.
Now, this only took me a few seconds due to some questionable deals with an ancient cosmic evil. In the event that you haven't made such a deal, you're going to want to hang out by your chocolate for about 5 to 10 minutes, depending on your stove. If you don't want the chocolate to solidify or burn, like my soul in a few years, really make sure you stick next to it and keep it moving until it reaches that thin, liquidy consistency that we need.
Thankfully, someone in this house did their goddamn job for once. Unfortunately, that person was not me, and I forgot to record this part. But the same principles still apply to this step, and we're just going to employ the tried and true throw shit into a blender method like we did before. The key difference this time around is that we want to add our chocolate sauce in very slowly. The base for the sauce is cooler than the hot chocolate, and if we add the chocolate in too fast or too much at one time, it'll just solidify and make little chunks without having a chance to incorporate. So if your uncle put the blender on high speed like you told him to, we can go ahead and start adding the chocolate sauce in little by little until eventually we get...
Blam, a sauce. Blamma sauce. Blamma sauce. That's the name I'm gonna call it. It's trademarked, and you can't use that anymore. I called it. You can't use it unless you're Daddy Babs. In which case, if you do use it, like, could you tell people that I'm like a super cool guy when you do? Maybe we like go hang out and we high five at the mall, and then go buy Jinko jeans and go bowling on Wednesdays. I don't know. You're the expert.
After grabbing another alcoholic beverage or four, I jumped on sausage duty, and also I started cooking our Vermont maple links. Now this is really pretty standard. Cook them in the frying pan over medium heat and just a pinch of oil to keep them from sticking until they're cooked all the way through and have a nice brown crust covering as much of the sausage as possible without burning them. If you're worried about burning them, a good rule of thumb is to watch for a strong burning smell, almost like something is burning. If you can smell that, it's probably burnt. After that, store these bad boys someplace warm. I recommend dumping them onto a napkin-lined plate to soak up the excess grease, and then if you aren't storing pots, pans, or buried treasure in it already, you can stash them in the warmer under your oven, which should be pretty toasty by now if your oven is set to 500 degrees for reasons you can't remember.
And don't worry about them, because they're not going to stay in the warmer for too long. All we got to do now is make our tamago, which starts with our dashi. Now before you freak out, don't worry. If you can boil water, you can make dashi. Actually, I can't boil water. It's allergy. Well, then I guess you can't make dashi. Why are you doing this? I just thought I was kind of fucked up.
Well, I guess I'm gonna go scoop some cream and watch people from my window.
Oh.
It's just something I do.
Yeah, I know.
Easy peas, it's Japanese. All we've got to do is pop a 4-inch square of kombu seaweed into about 4 cups of water, crank up the heat on the stove to medium, and let it heat up until it's not quite boiling. After that, use a strainer to scoop out the kombu and add just about a fistful of bonito flakes. Once the water starts boiling, we'll turn off the heat entirely and let it reduce for 5 minutes, at which point we'll scoop out our fish flakes and heap them onto the mess of wet seaweed. Keep this on hand to sell to a modern art exhibit, revel in your easy joke, and set your expertly crafted dashi aside. No seasoning or additives needed. These 2 ingredients alone are worth their weight in gold, if gold was a delicious savory soup stock.
So, after far too much alcohol and time spent with the people you care about, we are mercifully just about done. The only thing we have left to do is to complete our tamago, which is about the trickiest thing you'll have to do with this dumpster fire of a recipe. It requires your undivided attention, but that's why we took care of everything else ahead of time. Once you get the hang of it, it's actually pretty dang fun. If, you know, making fruit roll-ups out of eggs is your idea of fun, I don't know, you might be into that shit. Here's a quick list of everything that you'll need.
We'll need a 1/4 cup of our dashi, a pinch of salt, a teaspoon of soy sauce, a teaspoon of sugar, a teaspoon of mirin, a Japanese cooking wine, and of course, 4 eggs. If you don't have mirin, don't worry too much. Check out Cooking Light's recommendations on mirin substitutes. My personal favorite is probably a 1/2 teaspoon of sugar and a tablespoon of rice vinegar, from which you can extract the requisite teaspoon of your mirin substitute. Oh, and just as another quick side note,
warning, now is the time to stop tuning out my horrible nightmare man-baby voice and pay close attention.
You bunch of douchebags playing Candy Crush Saga and talking about football while you're watching my video, fuck you. So first we're going to mix all of our ingredients together using a fork. Try not to use a whisk because a whisk will create a lot of air bubbles and change up the texture of our tamago. After we've got all our ingredients fairly well incorporated, we're going to pop a lightly and evenly oiled skillet onto the stove on medium heat. If by some outlandish fate of chance or act of gastro-Jesus you have access to a tamagoyaki pan, it'll make this even easier. But if not, I recommend using a non-stick skillet that you're confident hasn't been warped on the bottom. Once the skillet is heated up, pour just enough of our egg mixture to coat the bottom of the pan evenly. Once you see the edges of the egg begin to stiffen and pull away from the side of the pan, start very carefully rolling it up from one side to the other like a taquito. Try to make sure that the egg is still thin on the top, otherwise your roll won't stick together. Then lift the egg taquito up, pour another thin layer of mixture in, set the first roll back down on one side, and then, once our ideal consistency is reached, send this bad boy back the way he came. Then we just repeat this process until we're either out of egg or the crippling existential dread sets in and we realize that this is all probably futile anyways.
So now while our omelet is still hot and a little bit monstrous, we're just going to pop it onto our sushi mat here, which you can get for about $5. Then we're just going to take it and roll it up nice and tight. Make sure you keep it really tight into itself. Unroll it and cut it into about little 1-inch sections. And boom, a Japanese omelet like I wish my mom used to make.
And that, ladies, gentlemen, and all other equally valid designations, is that. For our bread, we're going to use Texas toast to ensure that the bread stays nice and crispy, what with all the moisture that we've got in our sandwich. On one side, we're going to spread our clotted cream and then top it off with our sausages, which we've butterflied and laid perpendicular to the grain of the bread. Yeah, bread has grain. Whole grain. Shut up, that joke was great. Placing our sausages like this isn't mandatory, but it will make sense for reasons that will become both apparent and hella gratifying momentarily. On top of our sausages, we're going to put a layer of tamago, on top of which we're going to put our top bread slice with our chocolate peanut sauce. And of course, make sure the outside of your bread is buttered so that we can finally begin the end and start panini-fying this thick bitch. Then, once we've got our sandwich nice and grilled, we're going to do what we all know is the only significant step in any recipe, and slice it down the middle to reveal, everyone say it with me, the cross-section. Up to this point, no one else has actually tasted this recipe, so let's dole out some sandwiches and see what they say.
What you guys think?
Not bad. It's kind of like it's almost like a breakfast sandwich.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Thoughts?
I like it.
I'm a little biased, but I think that's pretty good.
Alright, that's our show for this week. I hope you guys really liked it, especially you, Big Daddy Bab Babs. Hopefully there will be another show. There'll probably be another show, right? I feel like we're forgetting something. Oh, fuck! Fucking... Whew! Thought I undercooked these babies a bit. I just addressed the issue of plating.
Logan.
Oh